Hey guys, it's John Sixthsense here again from the Where Spirit Meets Science team. Just another research video for you. You're going to find it very peculiar, this coming from a psychic medium, but it's well known that I will always make a claim that I am not a spiritualist, that I am a psychic medium, okay? Psychic mediums have been in existence. I mean, mediumship can be followed back in history, thousands and thousands of years. Egyptian tombs, Bible studies, and most religions. It's a big phenomenon that's been going on for quite a long time. Whereas what I would class as modern day spiritualism, like the SNU and the modern spiritualist movement, it seems that the history behind it isn't as accurate as it's being portrayed. The stuff that I've got is a public record. It's not just history that I've researched. It's research from all over the place. And I'm not trying to disprove anyone's belief system. It's just I have a bit of an issue where when you're talking about spiritualism, it's almost like they try and govern all type of mediumship and psychic services, and it has to be done their way or no way. And a lot of the belief systems that are involved in it, I don't find believable or true. So I'm always a person that needs to prove something before I can say it or do it. As everybody knows, I like to put a lot of proof with my findings. So a lot of this is done from research. I've got quite an interesting story for you, so it's going to take a 10 or 20 minutes, so probably not 20, but a little bit of time. So please try and keep yourself awake while I'm going through it. I will try and make it as interesting as possible. So basically, we're talking in 1847, we had a set of parents. One was called, you had John Fox and you had Margaret Fox, who had three daughters, but two young daughters that was living there. One called Katie and Kate, and one called Margaret, but she was known as Maggie. The story goes, they moved to a new house in Hydesville, which is probably about 20 miles away from New York. It was a small community, a very close community. The house they moved into had history of being a haunted location, so there was a lot of folklore that was surrounding the property. And the family knew about this, and they took on the property knowing this. But basically, on the 31st of March, which was All Fool's Eve, really, of April Fool's Day, the children, as children do, made some claims and started messing around with stuff. So what happened is, Katie had got an apple, and she had wrapped a piece of string around it, and she was dragging it across the floor as if it was making a noise of furniture being moved or spiritual presence. It kind of disturbed the parents because, number one, they wouldn't think that the children would do this themselves because of such a young age that they were at. Number two, because of the history that was behind it. So, more and more started happening, and it continued most nights, this did, after this initial period. Then one evening, the girls decided to take it a step further, and what happened was they was claiming to be communicating with the spirit of the house. So basically they claimed that somebody was murdered in this premises 5 years before they were, a guy called Charles B. Rosnan, according to their claims. Basically, they're saying that this person was murdered, buried in the cellar, and he's trying to communicate now to get justice, blah blah blah. So the girls basically attempted communication by making knocking noises and asking the spirit to finish it off. Eventually they created a code, which you could get some quite accurate information from. What the parents didn't know, which Maggie later admitted about 50 years later, it was the girls that was doing it. So they was manipulating the knuckles and the feet, and they was making a knocking response. Basically, because the parents, as I say, would not suspect the children of doing this, they invited more of the public to come and witness this, including the neighbours. And very quickly they became big figures in the community. They went trying to find, they took the story even further, which got to a dangerous level, and they said that they were going to go and find the murderer of Charles B. Rosnan. Now remember, history shows there is no such person as Charles B. Rosnan, but still, because of the girls' ability and how accurate they've been with previous stuff, the public believed them. So, the story goes on that they searched the whole community, and they found this poor guy, not very intelligent guy, with the surname as Bell, and they labelled him the murderer. It turns out he was shunned from the community, classed as a murderer. His life was over, basically. So the big hype started, they started getting a lot more attention, everything came into kind of fruition. So the girls decided to move to Rochester, where their older siblings both lived. So Kate went to live with her older brother, Maggie went to live with her older sister Leah, who incidentally also became a medium after all this. She was probably one of the worst ones. Basically, they continued the rapping and the knocking, and there was a pair of community leaders there, okay, who invited the sisters into the house to give a demonstration of this. They would undress the sisters and get a team of skeptics around to check that there's nothing that they're using to be able to make these noises, and then they would conduct a seance, and it was believable, really believable. And then basically the word spread. They went massive. I mean, they started touring the US, and then they when Kate actually married a young man who was later classed as the John Baptist of modern day spiritualism, they formed an actual religion called Spiritualism, or the Spiritualist National Movement, which is a subdivision of the SNU and other parts. So the story goes that while Kate had married this amazing guy, who was, you know, also a very great medium and spiritualist and whatever else, that Maggie had actually married Dr. Kane, who was a very famous man, but he was a big skeptic of anything in the paranormal or mediums, and he thought she was a fraud. But so he asked her to move away from the movement, and she did, because of her love for him. But then a year later, the man tragically died, which systematically put Maggie into a decline, and she started drinking heavily, which brought a lot of attention to her, especially from the spiritualist movement. She came back to the spiritualist world, and basically she was accepted because of her origins. But then one day she had the New York Herald, or the New York Press originally. It was on the eve of so basically it was on the eve that she gave the story to the press, that on the evening she was going to create a big invitation to the Catholic building in New York, and she had an audience of hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe into its thousands, where she was going to denounce spiritualism. So, you know, everybody turned up all excited to see what this lady had to say, and she told the story of how it all started with the apple. She then later proved that we was able to make the rapping noises by clicking his knuckles in a certain way, manipulating them, but also that we then moved it to the feet, which wasn't traceable by anybody. So we could make our knuckles and our feet make a certain rapping noise, and in response to spirits, which then created a movement. But bear in mind, at this point, there was already 8 million spiritualists worldwide because of this. So we'd already seen a creation of a religion. So she did this big statement, everyone was in shock. The New York Herald had wrote all about it, and you know, you'd have thought that it would have been the end of spiritualism, but no, it lives on. Now, obviously, we've seen a story where 2 sisters as children played a trick, and it went further and further. They profited from this, because even in the Civil War, they made big gains because of the amount of losses within the Civil War, and people wanted comfort from all the losses. So, but it was all done on a seance level, there was no accurate information, blah blah blah. But this is how modern day spiritualism has been created. So my question is, how can it still be a viable religion, even with statemented, even from the originators of it, are claiming that it's fake, you know? So then we've got these people who claim that they can teach anyone to become a medium. Well, I'm sorry, that's nonsense. You have to have an ability in you straight away before you can build on it. And this is where it all originates from. Now, not all spiritualists are fake. There are accurate mediums in spiritualism, but there are in all walks of life. I'm not claiming I'm the be-all and end-all, but I will always try and give proof to everything I'm kind of claiming. But that's the origins of spiritualism. I'll be quite interested to hear your comments, to see what comes back. You know, obviously faith is a big thing for everybody, and believability of certain faiths is very important. But you know, I don't really ask anyone to do the research before they buy into anything. And because a bit of research for me is uncover the story, which has kind of told me what I already knew anyway. So, but guys, thank you very much for watching. Watch out for future videos. If you're not subscribed, please can you click the subscribe button and ring the bell. It will notify you when we upload any further videos. Also, I did a very interesting video on the origins of religion and Christianity, which is kind of very interesting. So please have a look at that. It's also on this channel. If you're not on Facebook, if you just type John Sixthsense, where spirit means science, it will take you straight to our fan page where we do a lot more video content. But thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully you find it informative. Take care.